In Conversation with Terry Shepard, award-winning broadcaster, narrator, and author. A deep dive into the writer's craft with the artists and support systems who create the stories we love.
Thanks, Lisa. The last time we visited Jessica Arden Cline, she was about to launch a KickStarter campaign to promote her forthcoming nonfiction book, Tarot for Fiction Writers, using the cards to supercharge story ideas, deepen characters, and illuminate plot lines. She exceeded her financial goal within hours of the start of the campaign, and the book is available now through her website, jessicaarden.com/tarot. Jessica, welcome back.
Yeah, great to be back. I appreciate it.
More and more authors are using KickStarter as a marketing tool. What draws writers in the tarot space to that platform?
Okay, so Kickstarter is a really interesting platform with people who are just really fired up about independent creators and specialty projects. If they're not kind of in between genres even, tend to find a home there, which is where I tend to write anyway. Although, and also on Kickstarter, there is an opportunity because so many tarot decks are by independent creators are put out through Kickstarter. So there's already a huge group of people who are on Kickstarter who go there looking for tarot decks. When I was thinking about this project, I thought that would be really a perfect way to do this kind of pre-retail launch event on Kickstarter. And it was really great. I really enjoyed the whole process.
How did you learn the platform?
I totally owe this to Russell Nolte and Monica Leonel, whose Kickstarter book taught me really everything I needed to know about doing this, and also saved me from doing things a little too fancy just for fun, and therefore getting to a profitable campaign besides just something that seemed fun. So they really influenced the whole process between, just even creating the communications to connect this work with the people who it would benefit. A lot of that came from them, and a lot of the timing and things like that. So I started this with maybe like 5 people on my nonfiction newsletter for writers. So many of the backers and so many people discovered it just by going to Kickstarter and finding this project. And so I started in August of last year. I put the pre-launch page up, and then people can kind of look through projects and say, oh, notify me on launch for ones that look interesting. And so by the time I got to the launch date in March, it was between 300 and 400 followers, which was just phenomenal, just totally exceeded all expectations. And it was super wonderful. And so I funded on the first day. And the cool thing was, you get one-on-one communication with all the people who are interested in your project. So, every day at the end of the day, I would get a list of everybody who had backed that day. And I went through and wrote individual emails to each one of them just saying, hey, thank you so much for backing this project. This is wonderful. I mean, thanks for helping to bring this to life. So there was a lot of opportunity to have some back and forth, and you can send out campaign updates. And like I had a workshop with Capital Crimes that guests could attend. So I sent that out to all of the Kickstarter backers so they could, come and see and get some training before the book was done and out. Yeah. And it was just really wonderful, positive experience.
And you hit your goal in the first hour?
Yeah, I think in like the first 20 minutes, actually. My initial goal, which was kind of like the lowest bar to fund, because this was a print-on-demand project. And so the overhead, I wasn't like doing a special print run or anything like that, where some campaigns will need like $5,000 to fund. So I started with 500, and then as a kind of the lowest bar to jump over. And then after that, it just kind of went on from there, which was just wild and wonderful.
As I look over your Kickstarter page, I see over a half dozen different ways that people could support your project. How did you come up with all of those options?
That was another great thing about this project, right? Because if I was just writing the book, I would have just written this one book and that'd be done. In thinking about what would complement the book and be kind of supportive and add to the value, what I was putting together for the backers, I thought, okay, well, some people are visual. Within the book, there's over 200 different tarot prompts that are based on writing instruction and writing the craft of writing. And so between characters, plotting, and just getting yourself unstuck from any point where you are. And so I decided I would create the tarot spreads for fiction writers book, which is a larger book. It's 8.5 by 11. And so I just put all the prompts in there, designed those. That took longer than I expected. And then I also wanted to create some digital things that could be quickly accessed if you're working with your cards and then you want to pull up on your phone. Okay, what does this symbol mean? I did some quick guides on the symbols, the numerology, and the card meanings. And also, I love stickers, so I wanted to make stickers. And so there's a lot of really cool tarot card stickers. So I found an artist and commissioned some artwork for the stickers, and which also is available on notebooks. And so you could do that on notebooks. And then I also made a tarot spreads journal where you can record your spreads and your thoughts and your connections to your characters and stories.
Jessica Arden Cline is our guest. Her book is Tarot for Fiction Writers, Using the Cards to Supercharge Story Ideas, Deepen Characters, and Illuminate Plot Lines. Her website is jessicaarden.com/tarot. Let's talk about the book. Why'd you write it?
As writers, we usually start with a point where the words are flowing. The impetus for writing in the first place is excitement and joy, and you're creating these characters. And so we all hopefully have times when the words just flow. However, we're also humans, and we also have times when the words do not flow, right? So whether we're stuck or burnt out or dealing with some life situations, you want to write, but putting something down, if it's up here, it's perfect. And then once it goes on the page, it's imperfect, right? So that can be a huge barrier sometimes. And so a couple of years ago, I found myself in a real big burnout. I was in a place where I kept trying to write the sequel and trying to write the sequel and trying to write the sequel. I'm sitting down, I'm getting my butt in the chair, trying to do the work, and things were just coming out like in drips and drabs, and I couldn't get it done. I couldn't get it out there. I could get words down, but they weren't good words. They were just bleh, like the stuff you don't want. So, thankfully, at some point, Capital Crimes, the chapter that we both belong to of Sisters in Crime, located here in Sacramento, met. And then one of our speakers was Lisa Kessler, who is just phenomenal. And she mentioned using tarot cards as writing prompts. And I thought that was just super brilliant because there are story cycles built into the tarot cards. And also tarot is always something that I've loved, but I've never put those two things together before. And so I immediately signed up for her class. But that didn't start for another couple months. And so I am very impatient and of course I got some decks and I started doing my own thing and I'm like, how do I do this? Okay. That process of getting tarot cards and using them as an impetus to start writing got me writing again. It got me back to that place of joy and creativity that I felt like had been missing during that time when I was so burnt out and stressed. And as writers, the ability to write isn't just like a thing that we do so much, but it can be really tied into our identity, and who we are as people. And so when that's stalled and stopped up, it feels even worse. It's really awful. And so to get that back was just really wonderful. And I thought, and I'd also been researching, I've always been interested in play, novelty, especially since I've gotten my ADHD diagnosis and learned more about how that helps. Neuroscience is also kind of an interesting thing to me. So tying all that into how does this work? Why is this working so well? What is this doing here? And so I really thought that this was an activity that could benefit so many other writers who've been in those situations, who are just going through those tough times, having trouble writing, maybe coming back to writing after a hiatus. It's a gentle, low stakes, playful way to get writing again. And not only that, to amplify the creativity that you have. So your brain will automatically go to the kind of low hanging fruit if you're just brainstorming by yourself and just thinking in a vacuum. But using the tarot cards, the science behind this, the randomness added to your process can actually create an interactive creative environment. And so because of that, you're seeing these pictures, these symbols, colors, things on the cards, and that helps you access a broader range of your memory web. It can help trigger ideas that are in your subconscious and you kind of haven't thought about that in a long time and go, oh, that little piece that I filed away 5 years ago that I thought was going to be so awesome, paired up with something else, but I didn't know what it was. Maybe that's the thing that's going to come up and be like the perfect match for the part of idea that you have. It's just been really wonderful. And I've already seen it helping other people. And it's just great to share that.
For those who are unfamiliar with the system, give us a Tarot 101.
So basically what I do, I'll give you an example of what I do. So tarot cards, if you're not familiar with them, are a deck of 78 cards. And they started out as a game long time ago. So because they're a game, they kind of put our mind in the state of play, kind of triggers that association like, oh, we're going to do something fun. That lowers the pressure, which is really nice. And it can just break you out of that paralysis if you're staring at the blank page or you don't know what to do next. Like, this is a step forward, and then you can come up with more. And so I would first kind of take stock of what I needed out of the reading. So for example, like what do I already know? So if I'm looking for information on a character, okay, so what do I already know about this character? And then kind of journal about that. And then what do I need to know? What's the missing piece there? Or it could be if you're writing a scene and you know that XYZ happens, but you don't know the details. I was working on a scene in my reader magnet where the protagonist Paige and her pet hedgehog Auguste, who's the talking hedgehog in the book. I knew they were going to be walking through the French Quarter and having some banter, and they were going to meet the first suspect in the catnapping, which is the crime that happens in this story. But I didn't know quite what they were going to talk about yet. So I did a reading for that, and I was able to come up with some details and some go deeper into who this suspect was going to be. When you're looking at these things, you can take it very literally. Like you might pull the Fool and you see a dog, and so maybe you're going to put a dog in the scene. That might be like, oh, okay, let's do that. Or you might look at the meaning or the pictures on the cards, and that might give you some more insight. Looking up the meaning of the card that's traditional, or looking at the actual image on the card might trigger something, or like, oh, that reminds me of that girl I sat next to in that university class who was always smacking her gum. And that might lead you to another thought. And so sometimes it's not the first thing, but like the chain of thought down the road that gets that creativity going.
So even if you're not a mystical person by nature, the system can help you.
The way that I use the decks doesn't have anything to do with divination. And I think that if anybody's worried about that, it's more like using a Rorschach test. Like you are interpreting what you see and making meaning and getting ideas from that. It's more like a springboard.
We are in conversation with Jessica Arden Cline. Her latest book is Tarot for Fiction Writers, using the cards to supercharge story ideas, deepen characters, and illustrate plot lines. It is in wide release September 24th, but available now on her website, jessicaarden.com/tarot. You offered a 6-week class to some of your Kickstarter supporters. Tell us about that.
Yeah, so that class was really fun. We did a Tarot for Fiction Writers 101 class, and I kept the enrollment pretty small. I wanted to keep it under 12 participants because it's an interactive class. So it was a live interactive class, or people could watch it afterwards. We went a lot deeper into a lot of the examples and ways you could use cards to, go into your characters. We talked about archetypes and looked at how to use the idea of persona and shadow of a character to create more resonance. We looked at, different strategies for plotting, for just starting anywhere you are and getting unstuck. We went through how to visually interpret the cards with lots of examples, and also went through, looking at decks and cards. The same card in 4 different decks can be radically different because of the tone and the feel and the interpretations of the artist who created those particular decks. And also how to choose decks that are going to work for you and the kind of genres that you're writing in, and the tone and the mood that you're trying to bring out that complement that. Yeah, and then we also went deeper into the powerful use of play in both this practice and beyond, and also how randomness is helpful and how novelty is helpful, especially for neurodivergent individuals like myself whose brains get stuck and bored. Motivation is a challenge, not because, we're lazy, but just because that's the way our brains work and that's the way our brains process dopamine. We've got to come up with different sorts of strategies that can work and help.
Has the system streamlined your process of creation?
I should say it's easier to come up with ideas and to expand and take fun, weird twists and turns that I didn't see coming. I'm not a fast writer. I'm a very slow writer. So I don't think that part has sped up any, but it has made it more enjoyable and feels fun and playful and creative again in the way that I was really missing before.
For those among us who are plotters, there are systems that seem to be in place to help us get through the planning of our stories. But it seems like tarot might be a popular tool for those of us who fly by the seat of our pants.
Yeah, so actually, tarot can be helpful in both of those situations. I'm kind of a hybrid of the two. I kind of get the big picture stuff set up and work chunk by chunk and discover as I go too. When you're plotting and getting things ready, you're building all these things, these characters, these plot twists, if you're writing a mystery, you're creating your list of suspects and their secrets and their motivations, their motives and their means and their opportunities and all these things. And so if there's anything that you get stuck on while you're plotting, this can speed up that process as well. So you can use these prompts to help see what you're missing and fill in the holes that you've got. If you're a discovery writer, if you write by the seat of your pants, then there's a whole section of prompts in the book that are just for getting unstuck wherever you are, that can help you to just take a break from where you are and then consider some of the different detours you might take or ways you might move forward or things you can throw in your character's path.
Jessica Arden Cline wrote Tarot for Fiction Writers, using cards to supercharge story ideas, deepen characters, and illuminate plot lines. Over $9,000 was raised on a $500 goal in less than an hour. 259 backers backed the project on KickStarter, and the book itself will be available in wide release on September 24th, but it's available now for both pre-order and purchase at jessicaarden.com/tarot. Jess, thanks for joining the conversation.
Oh, thank you so much. Thank you for having me. I really appreciate it.
In Conversation with Terry Shepard is a copyrighted presentation. All rights reserved. I'm Lisa Davis. Join Terry Shepard next time in Conversation.